Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Liv Wu on the Mountain View food program team, and welcome to you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you for being at Google. Nancy's actually a native of Palo Alto, Atherton. She was born here, but 25 years ago she decided to go explore sushi in Japan with just a list of things she wanted to taste, very primitive, and just made her way into restaurants and chefs and tried to learn about them. And on her way to doing that, she met a handsome, gangly, tall Japanese farmer and fell in love and married him. And he said, "Do you want to live on a farm?" And she said, "Yes."
I said, "Maybe."
Actually, you did. And the rest
Let me think about it.
History. So I was at the farm, as I said. It's a farm that produces organic eggs,
Free-range eggs.
free-range eggs, and
then food that we eat.
And everything that they eat on the farm is eaten. And Nancy has become the person who translates this tradition for us in this book, but really she's a heroine among the Japanese, whom, like most rapidly industrialized countries, are losing their roots, their food roots, their cultural roots, and really some incredibly delicious, simple, and very healthful foods. So she is on television in Japan teaching the Japanese about their food traditions. It's this wonderful thing about being the insider-outsider that makes some of us the translators of traditions, because we see the outside and we see the inside. And she's taken that position, and she's been the premier supporter of the artisanal organic movement in Japan, and is their spokesperson. Her book, Japanese Farm Food, is won the IACP award.
No, it was nominated. Did not win. No.
I wanted you to win.
Sorry.
International Association.
The French translation is up for gourmand in the world. It was won the Gourmand Award.
So highly regarded book. I think it's really wonderful book. And you know, Nancy, I leaf through this, and there's really almost no recipe with more than 5 ingredients. And you look at
Farmers are busy people.
And you look at the table of contents, and it's small bites, pickles, soybeans, noodles and rice, vegetables, and seafood is the last one. Not a sexy list. But this is real food, good food, and incredibly delicious food if it's seasoned with the soy sauces and the misos that are made artisanally and still contain all the probiotics in them. So she's really the cook's cook, the cook's author, and also really the author of Japanese cooking, the comeback of traditional Japanese cooking. What made you do this unsexy thing?
Well, this is just the food we eat, and my husband was the Japanese cook in the house, and I did everything else because he's a great cook, and so why would I just jump into the kitchen when we were busy? Jump into the kitchen and do his food. We were busy, we had small businesses, and then started having children. But I always had in mind I was going to write cookbooks. I thought first I was going to do my food in Japan. But, and then also I had the title of the book was going to be When Japanese Men Cook, because the food, this has actually been sort of a compilation of his food and my food, and because I like salads and things, but his approach to food is really direct. He actually learned to cook from his grandmother, not his mother, and then later after college he went back to take over the farm and work with his father, and he didn't like the way his mom cooked, and so he cooked food every night, and he didn't like sugar in the food, and he didn't like MSG, and so he sort of renewed the family food. But then I started, my friends, my blogging friends, David Leibovitz in Paris, he said, if you live on a Japanese farm, you should write a book about the 100 easiest Japanese food recipes. And so I was like, okay, everyone wants me to write this book, so I'm going to write it. And then it became more and more my food, and I became to love it even more because it was my taste. It's the same food, but like every cook has, it's going to just have, it's lighter than my husband's food. There's less salt, less soy sauce or miso, and more green, because that's how I like to eat, and I'm not a farmer, Anyway, that's the story. And so,
I find it's so out there for you to, it's quite courageous. It's unbelievable. But the food, when you taste it, using the artisanal ingredients that she uses is absolutely stunningly delicious. It's crack an egg over rice, pour soy sauce over it. Really simple things.
Well, there's this idea that Japanese food is so specific and so codified and so hard to approach, but that's really not how people eat every day. Now, truly, people eat convenience store food commonly. That's a real big crisis, and rice consumption's way down. Tea, sake, all those things are way down. Western diet is on the rise, which is a problem. 60% of the people prefer powdered dashi to making their own with katsuobushi kombu, which is like the most no-brainer stock to make. And so,
say what kombu
kombu and katsuobushi. Kombu is kelp, and then katsuobushi is simmered, smoked, dried bonito. Skipjack tuna. Actually,
that's dried.
Yeah.
And it dries almost to the consistency of a piece of wood. And
you inoculate. Most of the katsuobushi is actually not inoculated. It's the cheaper stuff. But you inoculate it with some spores, and then it's dried and fermented and dried and fermented. So,
absolute umami, absolute flavor, right?
It's a very, very, very easy stock to make.
Yeah.
It's not like making stock from chicken bones. It takes a few hours. You can do it in 15 minutes, 16 minutes.
Yeah.
So, ridiculous to use powdered.
So this is a lady who's into mold and spores. At her house, there are jars of miso being made, persimmon vinegar
soy sauce
in urns, soy sauce made from scratch. And she's totally into koji. Do you want to explain what koji is?
Yeah, well, I'm writing a book now about preserving, and a lot of these, the reason why people could do, as a community, people used to make natto together. Not everybody, but there were those communities. They're making natto together. It's really hard to make these big projects all by yourself because, either you need a really big family or a local community. And so I got involved with a miso making community through one of my friends, and he grows the soybeans, and he actually steams them up, and he makes the koji. And then another group was making soy sauce, and I jumped into that. But along the way, there's this koji, this mysterious koji, and I've been researching it and going to the koji maker, the koji spore maker and the koji maker. And the thing is, it's tricky, is that koji is it's the element that makes fermentation possible. Soy sauce, amazake, all of the sashi suseisos, the except for salt, miso, soy sauce, shochu, all of the Japanese key ingredients. Katsuobushi is slightly different, but it's a koji relative. And it's actually these spores that used to live in the air, and eventually, and people would just capture this wild spore fermentation, and they would make koji. So koji is the spore, and it's also, and confusingly, also the rice koji is commonly called koji, but it's actually called rice koji in Japanese. So it's like a little bit confusing. That was why I didn't quite understand it. But there are these spores that now it's like a spore capturing laboratory holds them, and so the sake people will buy the spores, or the miso people buy the spores from their people, from their spore producing place. But about 5 years ago, this woman who had she's like the 7th generation of a koji producing shop, and they were actually they were buying the spores and they were inoculating the rice, and then selling that inoculated rice, which is kome koji. She discovered in an Edo period book, so we're talking more than 200 years ago, this reference to shio koji zuke. And so there's this huge boom in Japan about using koji, but specifically shio koji. It just means you take this rice koji, which you can buy from that South River, for instance, the Miso place in Massachusetts, and you add some water, add some salt, and every day you stir it on your counter for a week or 10 days, and then it's this incredible fermentation agent, or it's good for meats, or it's drizzle on the vegetables, or it's like a quick pickle. And so there's this huge boom in Japan about this just because it's women. I just went to visit her recently. But so koji was a completely dying kind of culture, only used by the specific sake makers or soy sauce makers. And then now it's coming up, and it's coming to America too. I mean, I think you can find it here and there. Some of it's larger companies. I don't know has anybody ever bought it? I don't know what's in it. I haven't had a chance to check the packaging, but it should be just, and shio, the same thing, you can make the same mixture with soy sauce instead of, it's 300 grams of the rice koji to 200 cc's of liquid. And if it's salt water, you're going to put 50 grams of salt in. But it's incredibly, incredibly delicious and easy to use. A little non sequitur.
Any reason, common universality between, the West rediscovering making sauerkraut, making your kombucha, making your own cheese? Why is this mold culture coming back to these?
Well, this one is because, shio koji, the salt koji, or soy sauce koji, shoyu koji, is so easy. Like it's not even fermentation in some way. I mean, it is fermentation, but it's like the most no-brainer. And it stays for a year in your refrigerator. And so it's not like sauerkraut. You got to eat it really quickly. And pickles and things like that. So anybody can have it in their refrigerator for a year and just dollop it on something, or you marinate some meat in it for a day, and it's the absolute dead easiness of it. And it's also very healthy for the flora in your body, but it's just, she discovered this really, really, really easy, great thing, and so I think that's what it is, because not everybody can make pickles. I am making a lot of pickles more because my next book's about that, but realistically, I've got a big wooden barrel full of takuan, it's a daikon pickle, and I left, and I'm not sure how it's going to be when I come back because it's going to warm up. I'm only gone for a couple weeks, but still, you got to deal with all this.
What was it like teaching the Japanese how to?
I don't really want to say I don't like to say that I'm teaching the Japanese. I think that through this, I'm filming with Fuji Television. It's like going to the katsuobushi guy, and they were really excited about that segment, and going to his place, and what is so damn cool about it, and it's so delicious, and this bowl of freshly shaved katsuobushi and dollops of miso and some organic tea, and it's just so easy and so great, and 60% of the people don't use katsuobushi, and then the other 39.999% don't use the good stuff, and so there's this katsuobushi, and I shave it up. I'm really bad at it. My husband's really good, of course, but sometimes I can get it right, and then I give it to the little students in my school, and then I say, who wants katsuobushi? Me, and then more, and it's like you're offering chocolate. But that's that is what I'm really excited about, saying, this is so great stuff. Why don't we just use it, or going to the vinegar maker, and, by the way, 99.9%, or maybe it's 80% of that one. 80%, 85% of the people use this vinegar that's on the supermarket shelf. It's made from ethyl alcohol, and a little bit of rice, by the way. I mean, how delicious is that? I mean, I don't want to drink or eat ethyl alcohol. And so these other vinegars are actually made from sake, like organic sake, and they've been doing it for 140 years. So how cool is that? And it's just people don't know. And so it's like saying, hey, we've got all these cool, great things in Japan, and this 1,000-year-old food traditions that are being lost, gone down to this many people using the real stuff and that many people using the fake stuff. So, and it's not about, I mean, you can make a choice. Like, if you want to buy the cheaper one, I don't care, but at least know what's in it. Like, if you go to buy a big company's, soy sauce that's made from the refuse from making oil instead of real soybeans, or you're going to buy the one with soybeans, I'd rather have soybeans in my soy sauce. But make the choice with some, with knowledge. But most people don't even know. They just think, really? That's what it's made from? No idea.
You referenced your school. Just describe that for us.
I have a little immersion preschool that I sort of modeled after a peninsula school in unincorporated Menlo Park. I grew up near there, and it's kind of like it was in the day, I grew up in the 60s, it's like a free school. It's still sort of a free school. I used to visit there with my students. And cook for them, do a lot of art and science, like really hands-on stuff. And they play outside, and there's tree houses and trees to climb, and they're little preschoolers. They start at 2 to 6, and then there's elementary school kids, and it's and they speak only English.
So you started it in your town?
In my old house, yeah. We moved out, and we renovated my parents-in-law's farmhouse. And since it seemed wasteful, that I had a little English school, and it just seemed to make more sense to have kids come every day and actually learn English rather than forgetting it every week and coming back to relearn, do you like, can you, those. So, but the kids are really, really, really into food, and so every day when they come in, they're like, "What's for lunch today, Nancy?" They're totally darling,
So
about that. Yeah.
Most of us here love Japanese food, love to go to Japanese restaurants, or even maybe make some of it at home. Mm-hmm. How do we do what you're saying we should do, and how do we reproduce this?
I think that the first thing is that, you have to have good building blocks. Right. And so I think the best sourcing for Japanese food is macrobiotic sites. I use a place called Goldmine. The Nama show you that you can buy at high-end supermarkets is our local soy sauce, actually. I know the people. There's some in the back you can taste. The misos, unfortunately, are a little bit oxidized here, so they're darker than that's why I brought some Japanese miso.
She's the ultimate mom and the ultimate farmhouse mom. She brought us miso to taste.
I would have brought more, but my suitcases were heavy. One was full of food.
So please taste them.
Yeah, please
You'll
taste.
Be amazed at the difference between the commercial.
And our friends grow for them, and it's organic. So I think that getting good soy sauce, good miso, good salt. I think that the Trapani salt is a good substitute for. I use Noto salt from Japan. Trapani salt's really similar, and it's clear, kind of briny. And then good fish, good vegetables. The easiest thing is like the steamed in sake fish. You can't overcook it, And the vegetables, good vegetables, go to the farmer's market, fish market, you're done. But I wouldn't start with, I can't say the name of the company, I wouldn't start with large company type of ingredients, because like the vinegars will be way, way, way too vinegary, and the soy sauce won't have that taste that you need.
Yeah. The soy sauce back there is amazing. It's made by artisanal methods. It's live, organic.
And you saw it?
Not pasteurized.
2 years in the barrel.
Yeah. And it's really wonderful.
So the interesting thing is, since I've been making my own soy sauce with my friends, and I have a barrel at my house, they're doing it, fermenting it in poly barrels. polyurethane, I think, is that the word? Yeah. When you make it at home, it's a lot thinner than commercial soy sauce, even this. And so I think that as time went on, I mean, in farm families, you just put soy sauce on the vegetables. Like if you boil some vegetables, you put some soy sauce on and katsuobushi. But sometimes dashi to thin it out. But I think it's the town people do more of adding the stock to the dashi to the soy sauce because it was too overpowering because it's commercial. But that's my new theory.
Yeah. Yeah, and dashi is stock. It's kind of
katsuobushi. It's a
you keep at home. What's a meal we can make out of some recipes in this book?
Well, like I said, I think that the easiest things are the steamed fishes. I'm partial to raw fish, but you have to be careful and get it. You have to ask the fishmonger if you can eat it raw.
Right.
But a lot of raw, not necessarily eaten raw. You put kombu on it and a little salt to suck out some of the moisture, or salt and vinegar. There's various treatments. It's pretty common. And nabe, the hot pot, hot pot's really a misnomer. It used to be called one pot, and then it changed in vogue to be hot pot. But really, nabe is such an easy word to say. I'm trying to get that into the vernacular. But nabes are, you just put a pot with some kombu and some water, and then you start, adding vegetables and tofu if you have it, and some sort of protein if you are into protein. And
it's kind of the communal fondue pot.
Easy thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, great. Do your sons eat dad's food more or mom's food more?
Well, they eat whatever is on the table, I'll tell you that. Recently, there's 19, 17, so they like more hearty food, and so they like my Mexican food, but then they like his curry rice, or whatever. And they all cook, but if you gave them their druthers, they'd have me or my husband cook. They all worked at Soba restaurant friend place when they're 13 to 16. We homeschooled.
And I take it you eat with the seasons if you're eating on the farm.
Oh yeah.
What's the most nostalgic season? What's the most abundant season for you?
Summer.
On the Japanese.
Summer.
And what are you harvesting then? And what are
summer? Tomatoes don't grow so well because of the humidity, but we have tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes do better. Tomatoes and peppers and hot peppers and eggplant, cucumbers. Lettuce doesn't grow well in the summer. Neither does cilantro, so that's sort of spring stuff. And then we also buy from friends because when I have parties or need more. And that's also the busiest time because the weeds grow about a foot a day. Or maybe it's a foot a week.
I guess we're not going to see that beautiful slides, but tell us about some of them as if they were up there. What is it? Is the slides about making soy sauce? What are important images for us to look for in the book?
Oh, in the book, because that soy sauce is after. Soy sauce is for the next book. In the book, what I tried to portray, or what I wanted to write about, was that Japan is not this inaccessible, mysterious, hard to understand place, that the relationships are very direct and normal, and you can hug somebody if you want, and Japanese people are just the same as you and I, and that it was just this place full of, I mean, I'm really into antiques and farm stuff, so it's just this place with there's so much fabric. I mean, not just this kind of fabric, there's the fabric of life is, farm life is so rich and interesting and direct, and it's not a way of life that'll, foreigners or Tokyoites are kind of in the same boat. They don't really know much about this life. And so, and I have a lot of Tokyo people come out for, filming or whatever, and it's like the first time maybe they've been in a farmhouse, maybe.
So the revival is happening in Japan. People are rediscovering authentic traditional cuisine.
Yeah, some people are going back to leaving, I forget what they'll call it, U-turn, or no, there's another, there's all these words, these slogans, but people are leaving the city to come back, not in droves, but come back come to mountain towns and have a little bit better way of life, less money, but maybe better place to raise up your kids. But what's happening actually in Japan, which is more interesting, is that the Japanese government is working to brand Japan. And so there's a lot of, and so it's going to be a really good time to go visit Japan in the next couple of years, because they're identifying local areas, and I'm involved in several projects with this. They're disseminating money for projects to identify local areas that have cool things happening, and like food or artisanal arts, crafts, all sorts of things. It's not just about food. And will be something like, do they want to send that stuff abroad or to Tokyo, or they want to get people to come to visit that area? And so and also because of and that's one arm, but another thing has changed in Japan the last 10 years. 10 years ago, people did not have computers in their house, did not. And so from 10 years ago, people started having, they had phones that worked on the internet sooner than they had computers in their house. And so nowadays, I'd say most people have computers, but not everybody. Like my restaurant friend, he doesn't have a website, and he doesn't even know how to use email, But the farmers, again, not all, but somebody in their family is going to know how to use the computer, and somehow, they can Google it and they can find this place. And so all of a sudden now, all those outlying areas are connected somehow with internet access. Like, even if they don't have a page, you can Google them and you can find somebody's written about them, and then there's a phone number there, and you can call them and you can order their stuff, or you can go visit them. So that's what's really changed. That's something I really, and that's why, like somebody was talking about the market in San Francisco, they're finding more artisanal products, food products in Japan that used to be just so remote you couldn't, find their information. So now they can, find them and get them, and actually get them on the shelves here. And same thing in Japan, because we have this delivery system that you could order something, send it off 6 o'clock one night, and you can get it the next morning because it goes all night. So I was kind of pessimistic at the end of this book, but I'm very optimistic now. It's
Great.
Changing, yeah.
Great. And the reception in the West to this book has been unbelievable. It's been really. Did you expect that?
I guess I hoped. I thought it would. The publishers did not expect it. So
yeah, it's beautiful.
But the one thing I did not expect was how much the book spoke to Japanese Americans. I had not anticipated that I had people come up to me and said, I bought 5 for my family, and this was how our family used to live before my family came in the teens, and we've lost all these food traditions because there was no history of writing down recipes in Japanese families. And that has been maybe the most impactful for me.
Very
yeah. But it also has had a big effect on Japanese. It's a difficult book to publish in Japan because cookbooks are like $10 throwaways. It's unheard of to have a book like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's been published in French, maybe Dutch.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add? And then I'm going to throw it to the floor for questions.
The only thing is that about the I really can't emphasize enough how I would recommend sourcing the ingredients from macrobiotic sites because I visited a bunch of the supermarkets in the area, and I found that the amount of good ingredients was so slim, and so much of the ingredients had MSG in it, and all of the prepared pickles are all full of MSG, as they are in Japan. So, if you don't mind MSG, that's fine, but it speaks to lack of flavor otherwise. You don't, so, and salt pickles and things like that are so easy to make, or soy sauce.
Well, and I will add a question onto that, which is, there's this American love affair with sushi and sashimi, which is where you began, really. How do you nudge yourself off that?
Well, the thing is, though, I have to say that sushi is a culture. And so it's actually like a rich man's drinking spot, And nowadays, most people have never been to a real sushi. And we have sushi, we do sushi, handheld sushi, dinners at home, getting fish from the fish market, but the whole feeling of going to a really good sushi shop and having the master who spent years and years and years and years learning his craft, I'm friends with Jiro-san's editor, and so I've had the opportunity of coming 4 times, which is very lucky, never paying. And just that experience of being in that, it's not just the food, it's the whole thing. And that's why I went to Japan, is that feeling of sitting down, it's like, and then you get this beautiful food. It's not just about like sushi in the round for me, so it's a really complicated type of relationship, but it's also, real sushi in Japan is very expensive, can be very expensive.
Yeah, somebody at our lunch table was saying her grandmother used to tell her mother, ikura, salmon roe, is bad for you, and later on she learned because it was expensive.
It's because it's really hard to like get it out of the sacks. It takes time.
She told her kids it was bad for them, so she wouldn't have to buy it for them.
Right.
So yeah. So with that, are you okay if we open
go
it
ahead.
to questions from the floor? I think we probably get more interesting discussion.
You briefly mentioned about koji.
Koji,
Yeah, it keeps for 1 year. What happens after 1 year? And then, do you discard it, or do you keep adding to it?
No. It's not koji, shio koji or shoyu koji. Okay, so you could probably use it for marinating meat or something, but I don't know the scientific part of it, so I can find out from my pal. But after a year, it's probably going to lose its fermentation properties or some of the.
And if it doesn't ferment anymore, that means the food is going to start going bad.
Okay.
If it doesn't ferment anymore, that means the food is going to start going bad at that point.
I wouldn't say it's going to go bad because you still have salt or soy sauce in it. Because salt alone or soy sauce alone it's not like you leave them on for, meat's the only thing that you marinate for more than, vegetables like 10 minutes, like for zucchini, half an hour or something. It's not a really long, we're not talking long ferments. It's a quick pickling thing. Or for meat, it's like if you salt it or if you soak it in soy sauce. If you do it for half a day, it takes up more. But as opposed, so it has more tenderizing properties and more healthful properties. But you don't add to it because, you're going to use it more than a year, that's for sure.
Because I was associating that with miso, and miso has koji in it.
Yeah, and, miso never goes bad.
But then white miso is not supposed to keep as long as white miso doesn't keep as long as the other kind of miso. So I was wondering why. And then, I do have some miso in the fridge that I brought back from Japan. I was wondering if I should throw it away. I heard that I can freeze it. But then if you freeze it, what happens to koji? And
the koji dies in the freezer.
It does.
Yeah. There's no more good qualities from koji. It doesn't mean it's bad. But the white miso shouldn't go bad. White miso is white because it has a lot more koji in it. And it has a really short fermentation period. You know, so it can be done really quickly because it's higher concentration of koji to soybeans.
Thank you.
But miso will never go bad. I'm not sure about it. Depends on the miso. The white miso, I don't use it. You know, it just gets darker, or you scrape off the darkening place. You know. But I'm not American. We keep things. My husband makes me sift the flour to take the bugs out. So, you know. I was horrified, but you know, more horrified about him getting mad. Yeah.
So speaking of illegal activities, of course, in Japan it's illegal to brew anything with more than 1% alcohol.
Yeah.
And are there things that you can create in the States because we don't have that law? Any traditional foods that involve like some amount of alcohol that you can't create in Japan? And where did you get the brewer's yeast?
Brewer's yeast. Oh, not brewer's yeast. You mean koji?
No, because first you have to convert it to sugar with koji and then ferment it to alcohol with brewer's yeast, right?
No,
which
we
isn't
don't do
available
that.
in Japan.
No. No, but I only know from, well, I visited the vinegar people making sake. There's no brewer's yeast in sake, but they don't add yeast. Let me find out from them, but I have 1 minute. But my husband makes doboroku. That's what you're talking about. And that's koji plus rice and water. And I am going to put it in the next book. But basically, I think you can find that recipe. And it's you half steam the rice. You can't cook it all the way, and then it has to, all of the rice has to cool down before you add koji. And you want a pot, you know.
That would be a fun thing to put in your book. Then you
Yeah,
can put
totally
a disclaimer.
putting in the book.
You can only make this outside of Japan.
Yeah, right. I know. I have to be careful when I talk on TV too.
Yeah, my husband
I mentioned in the last book too. Yeah, right.
I've always been curious about the possibility of making miso at home.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could comment on the, ease or difficulty of
Super
what's
easy.
involved.
Really, really easy. I mean, actually, this woman, the koji lady, hi Craig, I didn't see you. She made miso. It wasn't fermented at all, but she made miso on the studio set with a pressure cooker. We steam the soybeans, but with a pressure cooker, and then she added the koji and salt. Basically, it's a super simple operation, and the Shirtlifts book, the book of miso, it's really long. I mean, it's a really good thing. I felt like it was a little bit intimidating, but I'd only leafed through it. But doing it, it's basically steamed soybeans that you smash up. I grind them some people have a grinding machine, and then you add in salt, make the rice koji from the great South River people, and then a little bit of miso miso that's been softened with water, like a really super, super thin miso soup as like inoculation. And then you just pack it in a pot, and you, as the summer goes hotter, you stir it every once in a while. But really, it's as simple as that. And so that's why I'm trying to get my book out by February at least, so people still make it. But
I was also wondering, today is the 3rd anniversary of the typhoon in Fukushima.
Yeah.
If you had any thoughts on food safety concerns
food
in
safety,
Japan?
I would not worry about because I mean, especially if you live here, because Japanese government does not want to have any trouble with the U.S. government, And in fact, they told the outlying governments a lot sooner than they told their own people that there was a big emission. As far as the nuclear situation, nothing's changed, and there's massive, massive, massive amounts of water, nuclear wastewater that's going into the groundwater, into the Pacific Ocean, and they're no closer to finding I don't know if there really a solution exists, but it's pretty horrible, and we're fairly close, 200 miles, I get confused between 167 miles. So, but I think they'll just keep flushing it for an eternity I can't imagine what they're going to do. But the news people talk about that too. They're just like, oh yeah. But what's the point of talking about it, kind of thing. But food, there's another ocean over there, or the sea. The Japanese sea is where we get our fish. I mean, it's really a sad situation, but heartbreaking. Totally not.
Because I think a lot of them are grown in hydroponic conditions.
Yeah, that's a big thing
so
now.
They're very pretty and they're very sweet. They just don't have depth of flavor that we have here in the States, actually.
Tokyo has bad vegetables.
Actually, yeah, I found the vegetables better in the U.S., even though they don't look as nice.
Yeah. I think the chefs really concentrate on, they're very good about fish. So you can get good fish pretty much anywhere, but it's really hard for me to eat in Tokyo now because I'm really into vegetables and it's like a 0 on the plate. It's, yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
How difficult is the soy sauce process, or making soy sauce?
Yeah, soy sauce. We so far have a soy sauce, a small soy sauce place in Nagano, who takes my friend grows the beans and he grows the wheat, and then they inoculate it with they put the koji in, and then we rush up with there. We put the salt on, but basically is you mix in steamed soybeans with wheat that's been inoculated with koji, and you add salt and water, and you stick it in a barrel of some kind and let it sit for a year to 2 years.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm making fish sauce now. We'll see. It'll take a year and a half. Right. Put the salt, 17% salt with chopped up fish in a pot. Wait a year and a half. We'll see. Yeah, Japanese fish sauce you should start looking for that. It's really hard to find here, but it is really, really, really good. You tasted it at some of my house, right? Yeah, I have some mackerel fish sauce from the stubborn mother in the Wajima market. It's no label, it's a pet bottle, and it is just so good. But she puts not just guts and heads in, she puts in the meat of the fish too. Helps it be sweeter. But it kicks ass on all other fish sauces, totally. Yeah.
Yes, Peter.
There's 3 names, actually. The northern place, Akita, calls it shotsuru, and it's usually made from sandfish or sometimes squid or sardines. And then the Ishikawa Prefecture, which is where the Noto Peninsula is, they call it ishiri or ishiru. And they have, it's like the whole culture down there is all about that. And that's was fascinating for me to buy. My husband had used it before. I always had it at home, and I used it sometimes, and I put a little bit in the book. But once I went to the maker and I talked to them, and all these different ways to use it, and it's like they call it kakushiaji, just a little bit of hidden taste, And so I put it in. You don't want to taste it so much, and it's really good with a thin pickly thing. And I put it in Western dobs or stew, or I put it in. Fried rice, just a little bit.
The secret umami hit.
So it's it's a hidden taste. They're really big on, all of these areas are big on the hidden taste. Like katsuobushi area, they put katsuobushi on everything. It's not hidden taste, it's like every single thing. They put it on the raw egg on rice and soy sauce, katsuobushi too, The vinegar people, they put it in everything. Just as a choop.
So I'm coming to the conclusion that one of the foundational secrets of cooking and controlling flavor is dealing with fermentation, or if you want to put it another way, is controlling rot. And that really is.
Sandra Katz said, don't be afraid of the mold. So sometimes with my pickles, I got something going on them, and I just take it off. Same thing when I do sauerkraut. And also, I always, not being afraid of getting rid of the plastic. So I always made my sauerkraut in a plastic bag, we have pickling bags. They're food grade pickling bags, But I'm moving on to all of I had this cabbage ready to go before I left and I didn't have time to do it. So I stick it in the fridge. Hopefully I can try it, but I'm gonna try the sauerkraut without pickling bag. But I just put it in the wooden barrel and put some muslin on top. And I think that the plastic promotes mold. I'm very unscientific about my pickling, but
Feel about natto.
oh, natto? Good natto is really good. I've made it. I had an experiment, and I made it. Natto naturally ferments in the rice straw. And I tried it in the rice straw, or inoculating it with the natto kin, the natto powder spores, or you can take some natto slime and add some warm water and harvest. So I got it from my people, got some of their natto, and I made a little solution, inoculated the beans with that. They all tasted good, but the thing is, I should have been more scientific about it. I should have put it in a controlled heat environment. It was a very cool few days in the summer, and so I decided I'd put it in the car. And then one day, I woke up in the morning, it was like the heat arc had gone way up. But it was delicious. The best one was the one in the straw. They weren't slimy, but they tasted good, and so I still have to get back into it. But there's a method where you put it in a big hole in the ground, and you put it in straw in a big hole in the ground, and you pour hot water on it, and then you pack it with earth. And I'm going to do that next. My friend described it. Yeah, but yeah, good natto is really good, but it should be good natto. Can't find good natto very much in Japan anymore. None of it's organic, except for our friends. Not much of it.
So please taste the misos and the soy sauce in the back that Nancy brought for us. And thank you so much for coming to Google.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.